Good evening, everybody. A quorum being present, the meeting will come to order at 7:01 p.m. My name is Russ Rowe. I am the new town moderator. I thank you very much for this opportunity to serve you. And the first thing I'd like to do is to thank my predecessor, Mark Mercandante, for his service to the town as town moderator. And also the deputy moderator, Mr. Charles Proctor. I'm also required to inform everybody about the fire exits. Most of you came in through the rear doors. In case of an emergency, please file back through those doors. The shortest way out is to take a left once you go through the doors that will lead you to the parking lot. If those are congested or inaccessible, please come to the front. Way on the side, to my right, to my left, are exit doors that also lead outside. Please look around for your neighbors. If any of them have a hard time walking or traveling, please give them a hand. And that would be a good time to tell everybody to check their cell phones and pagers. I don't require that you shut them off, but please at least put them to vibrate so that if you do get an emergency call, you're not disturbing anybody. If you do have a call that you have to take, please be kind to everybody else and go out to the hall to take the phone call. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would ask you to please rise as the cadets from the national champion and nationally recognized Oxford High School Naval Junior ROTC unit use their color guard to parade and present the colors to opening tonight's meeting. Color Guard Commander, parade the colors.
Time, march. Colors, up. Left, face. Carry, color.
And now, the Oxford High School Band will perform our national anthem. Next is our Pledge of Allegiance. I found out that many other communities give the honor of saying the Pledge of Allegiance or leading the Pledge of Allegiance from a veteran. And I do happen to know a veteran audience, someone who I have known all my life, and it would be an honor. Battery here. It would be an honor if Roger Rowe would start the Pledge of Allegiance. All together?
I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Carry, color. Order, color. Right, face.
Please remain standing. I'd like to have a moment of silence for all those residents and employees who we have lost since our last town meeting. Most recently, Millie DeShane died this week, an employee of the school system, and recently Bernie Ray, who served on the Conservation Commission for many years, died. If you could please have a moment of silence in their honor, and all those others. Thank you very much. And again, thank you to the NJROTC Honor Guard and to our Oxford High School band. Next we have introduction of committees. Town moderator usually stands right here, and the board right in front is the Board of Selectmen. We have John Sad, Dan Coonan, Susan Gallant, Henry LaMountain, our town council, Jenny Casey, and town manager Joe Zaneski. In the back we have our finance and accounting team. Up in the front here is the finance committee. The finance committee, they are your representatives. They go through all the articles with the different town committees and different town departments, and they make a recommendation as to whether or not it's a good idea or not. So they are representing you. And we do have an opening on the finance committee. If anybody's interested, please see me after the meeting. Over here, we have the planning board. And the planning board also makes recommendations, especially when it has to do with zoning articles. Right in the middle is our school committee. The school committee not only has to get elected, but they also get no pay. So it's kind of a double thank you there. Been there, done that. And way over here, in case you're wondering, we have the reporters from the newspapers, local newspapers. Procedural matters. If anyone would like to comment on an article, I would ask that when the article is being read, that you come up to the mic that's going to be right over here, next to the finance committee, and between the finance committee and the school committee. And whatever order you line up in, that's the order that I will call you to make comments. I will be looking on the stage or at the different committees. I may have called on them first if I know that they're going to have some information that would be helpful to everybody understanding an article. If you have made a comment, you cannot move the question right after making the comment. You would have to let somebody else do that. Please be kind to your neighbors. No fighting, biting, kicking, licking, profanity, or insanity allowed. If I do make a mistake, and I'm going to try very hard not to, the proper thing to do is say point of order. This is a no-moan zone. We don't need any moaning. Just say point of order. I'll recognize you. You can let me know what you think is going wrong. We'll straighten it out because we want to do things the right way. Next, we have the return of service of the warrant, which will be read by our town clerk, Lori Kelly.
Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Worcester SS, to either of the constables of the town of Oxford and the county of Worcester, greeting. In the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are hereby directed to notify and warn the inhabitants of said town, qualified to vote in elections and in town affairs, to meet at the Oxford High School in said Oxford on Wednesday, the 22nd day of October next, at 7 o'clock in the afternoon, then and there to act on the following articles. And you are directed to serve this warrant by posting up attested copies thereof at the post office on the Plains, the post office in North Oxford, the post office in Rochdale, Memorial Hall, and Huguenot Steamer number 2 in said town, 14 days at least before the time of holding said meeting. Hereof fail not, and make due return of this warrant with your doings thereon to the town clerk at the time and place of meeting as aforesaid. Given under our hands this 30th day of September in the year of our Lord 2008, Jenny L. Casey, Henry J. LaMountain, Susan M. Gallant, Daniel P. Coonan, John G. Sad, Selectman of Oxford. A true copy attest, Albert M. Adams, Constable, dated October 3rd, 2008. Worcester SS, pursuant to the within warrant, I have notified and warned the inhabitants of the town of Oxford by posting up attested copies of the same at the post office on the Plains, the post office in North Oxford, the post office in Rochdale, Memorial Hall, and Huguenot Steamer Number 2, 14 days before the date of the meeting as within directed. Albert M. Adams, Constable of Oxford, October 3rd, 2008.
Thank you very much, Lori. All right, the time is 7:12 and we are off. Article 1, to hear the reports of any town officers or any committee or committees authorized at any former meeting and to choose any committee or committees the town may think proper. I'm not aware of any reports. Are there anybody here? Hearing none, we're going to move to Article 2. Article 2, to see if the town will vote to raise by taxation or transfer from available funds and appropriate a sum of money for the purpose of paying unanticipated higher energy costs in the fiscal year 2009 or act thereon. This is sponsored by the town manager.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the sum of $400,000 be transferred from free cash and appropriated to the energy contingency account.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any comments, questions? Do we have a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
Yes, the Finance Committee recommends.
The Finance Committee recommends this article. Hearing no other questions or comments, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. It carries. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to raise by taxation or transfer from available funds or borrow and authorize the town treasurer with the consent of the Board of Selectmen to issue a note or notes and or bond or bonds and appropriate a sum of money for the capital outlay program for fiscal year 2009 or act thereon. This is sponsored by the town manager and the finance director. We are going to break this down into two parts. The first one is school department, architectural design study for repairs and renovations to the Oxford Middle School, $25,000. Facilities maintenance department, partial roof replacement and domestic water heater replacement for the community center, $38,300.
Hold.
Okay, both items have been held. We're going to start with the first one, school department, $25,000. Do we have a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the sum of $25,000 be transferred from free cash and appropriated to the middle school design services account.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, and now we'll ask if the Finance Committee has a recommendation.
The Finance Committee recommends.
Finance Committee recommends. Are there any questions or comments from the floor? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The second part of Article 3 is for Facilities Maintenance Department, $38,300.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the sum of $38,300 be transferred from the Community Development Fund and appropriated to the Community Center Enterprise Fund for partial roof replacement and replacement of the domestic water heater. Said appropriation to be treated as a loan to the Community Center Enterprise Fund to be paid back over 10 years.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Recommendation of the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee recommends.
Finance Committee recommends. Any questions or comments? When you come forward to the mic, please state your name and address so that the town clerk can have a record. You know, there's two switches, Ken.
Ken Jermaine, 57 Locust Street. Are we going to get finance fees back on this, or is it just a straight out loan of $38,300? Are we charging interest?
I believe that we are not charging interest, but I would yield to the town manager.
No, as an internal loan, it's not necessary to charge interest.
And for some of you folks that may be new members here, we've done this in the past about, goodness, it was good 8-9 years ago. We did this as an internal loan, the same kind of format when we built the children's room at the new library expansion. The town meeting made a loan of $250,000 in that case to the library. It was to be funded by Smolensky Millette Trust, which has been, you'll see later on in this warrant, making a 9th payment on that loan. Just simple principal repayment.
Any other questions or comments from the floor? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries. On to Article 4, which is on page 2. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds and appropriate a sum of money into an agency fund, as well as to accept donations into this fund to be administered by a third party for the purpose of providing heating assistance for eligible Oxford residents or act thereon. And this is sponsored by the Board of Selectmen.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town establish an agency fund to be known as the Energy Assistance Fund, and that the sum of $25,000 be transferred from free cash and appropriated to said account. Said appropriation, along with any and all gifts and donations made for the purpose of providing energy assistance to eligible Oxford residents, be distributed to eligible Oxford residents for heating assistance through a third-party agency or agencies. Said action to take effect forthwith upon its adoption.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Recommendation of the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee recommends.
Finance Committee recommends. Questions or comments from the floor?
Josephine Valley?
There's 2 switches on it.
Josephine Valley, I live at 275 Main Street in Oxford. While I agree in principle to the nature of this appropriation, there was an article in the newspaper this morning concerning the town of Southbridge. Essentially, by requiring public money to be used for private purposes, I think it changes the nature of it. It's no longer a donation, but it's more like a tax. The article in the newspaper this morning indicated that the Attorney General's office, in fact, stated that public funds could not be used for private purposes, and that's exactly what the heating assistance program is. Secondarily, I believe originally this warrant indicated that the money would be managed by the Worcester Community Action Council, and I think it's much better that if we're going to use public funds, or if we're going to use funds for Oxford residents, raised by Oxford residents, that they should be managed locally. My concern is that some of the monies would be used for the administrative expenses of the Worcester Community Action Council. Secondarily, I believe that the local Council on Aging, the local churches, are better suited to know who in Oxford is really needy and needs the assistance. And I think essentially the townspeople of Oxford certainly are willing to make donations. I think it's just the nature of this warrant that I in particular object to.
Please.
Thank you. We don't take an item like this frivolously. This was done after town council had provided us, in fact, all the communities that Copeland and Page represents, a memo on this in anticipation of this stressful heating season. This is perfectly legal. The reason we say we're going through a third party is that, in effect, the town will make a grant to an agency such as WCAC, the Worcester Community Action Council. I've been in contact with them. If you saw your telegram in the Gazette this morning, there was an article about heating assistance that's coming from federal and state monies this winter. And WCAC, who covers this area, was quoted. There are already 196 eligible households in Oxford, people who have applied for heating assistance. The fellow I spoke to has 44 applications on his desk pending review and approval. People know that the heating assistance is there. It is, as far as eligibility, a single person who earns $20,800 a year, if you do the math, that's a 40-hour work week at $10 an hour. For a single person is eligible for heating assistance. A family of 4, the eligibility limit is $42,400. So if you're in that category, you're eligible for heating assistance. The maximum eligibility is $735, according to the newspaper article, and the minimum is close to $500. Now, fortunately, today, oil prices are down, so you can get more gallons of oil for your dollar. But we don't know what's going to happen this winter. We don't know how bad the winter's going to be, and we don't know how high prices might go. So to answer the question and address the comments, the best way, in my opinion, to do this is to give it as a grant to a third party. They will be obligated to document where the money goes. Doesn't go into administrative costs. It's better from the point of view that it takes, if you will, local politics out of it. I don't have the staff that's geared up to do this, although people at the community center, the senior center, know who needs help. They are properly directed to an agency that can help them. It's all done anonymously. I don't want to know who's getting money, who needs help. That's not my business, it's not your business. People, if you need help, that's okay. There's help for you. You go to WCAC, it's done anonymously, no embarrassment, and I think that makes a good program.
May I speak, please?
Hang on, we'll get a mic for you, okay?
Thank you.
Actually, I forgot to mention one person, our new deputy moderator, Al Brzezinskis, and Al will bring the wireless mic up there for you. They're replacing the battery, so try to get rid of those technical problems we've been having. Thank you very much.
Who wanted to speak?
Thank you. Elizabeth Ross, 23 Linden Street. I am one person, not working, 60, raising a handicapped grandchild, and I do get help from WCAC for fuel assistance, and quite a lot of other households here too. I'm opposed to this because WCAC, you give them the money, they're third party, they get to keep the interest this money will earn. Why don't you people, you selectmen in this town, take the money, pay off the police station, no new taxes. After the police station is paid for, take these taxes and invest it in a windmill. New electricity is something in this town, at the town's money. Keep the money here. There's such a problem with oil. Let's find a way. You got the airport, you got Orchard Hill, you got a lot of places we could put wind turbines in. Let's stop sending the money out of the community. Let's stop raising the taxes. If vote 1 is passed through, our taxes are gonna go up galore. Let's start helping the community by leaving the money here. We are all eligible for fuel assistance. Let's start doing something where we can reduce the cost of fuel to the schools and everything by way of wind power or something like that. Let's start investing and keeping things in the town. and no new taxes. I'm paying the taxes. I can't afford them any higher. There's so many people that have had foreclosures and leaving property because of taxes. We're one of the highest tax-going towns around. Let's start using common sense to not clog arteries. Thank you.
Selectman Sapp, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. These are very troubling times, and if we can help our neighbor, I don't see any reason why we should not. We're all feeling the pinch. I don't think there's anybody in our society that doesn't feel the hurt of the economy. As far as this program is concerned, if it's done by a third party, which probably would be the Worcester Community Action Council, only because they already are a distribution center for funds for fuel. They receive state and federal funding, and they take care of the eligible people within our area, Oxford being one of the towns that they service. Now, this amount of money will be granted to them, but it's only for the exclusive use of Oxford residents. People who apply to the Worcester Community Action Council for fuel assistance will get whatever anybody from any other town gets, plus what we have given to them to give to our residents. So they would in effect be getting more than anyone else from any other community, unless another community is doing what we're doing. We're taking that one extra step to help people within our community. I think that the town has done a great job in managing how we control our funds. Before we came to town meeting, we had over $250,000 that was going to be brought before you this evening in proposed articles. We have cut it all the way back to $60-some-odd. We've done our part, and now we want to do a little bit more to help those in our community that need the extra help. I urge you to support this. Thank you.
Okay, I think Joe had his hand up next. He doesn't have a mic though, you've got. Just so everybody knows, I did check to see if we had an extra mic and we don't, so I apologize. We're going to try to resolve that between now and May. Thank you.
Good evening. Joe DiPasquale, 4 Clarence Drive in Oxford, not to be confused with Joe the plumber. Selectman Sapp just answered a question for me, and I thank you, John, for that. I wasn't sure. If this is an additional to what the Community Action Council will give them from the federal government, this is an extra boost. I have no problem with that. However, the only problem I do have is that this is $25,000 of taxpayer money that's in free cash. So there's nothing going, no taxes being raised here other than what's in free cash. Well, you could say we already have our taxes raised. But my question is, there's a lot of people in this town that are hurting and struggling, okay? I've been in a recession for 9 years, okay? And I know what it's like. And I'm on a budget for oil. My budget went from $225 to $427 a month this year. It's difficult to make those payments, but I have to cut corners, I have to watch my budget at home, I have to get rid of the waste, and I think that's what government needs to do. I have no problem helping out, but my question is, if this is going to be Oxford money, why limit to the low income or the elderly? Granted, they need the help, but what about the working poor? These people are struggling with their mortgage payments, their tax bills, their groceries. If someone came to you and said, you know what, I'm going to be shot and I do not qualify for fuel assistance, is there any way possible that I could get $1,000 out of that fund, or whatever it is to fill my tank, something similar to what Joe Kennedy, Joe for Oil is doing, okay? Good luck trying to get a hold of him. I personally called Community Action Council. I called in July when I did my oil contract, okay? And when I hit the roof like I told you, from $225 to $420-something. I had to increase my budget from 10 months to 12 months. I brought it down to $311. For someone like me, it's difficult to make those payments. Pay my mortgage, pay my taxes. That's why I come to these meetings every time, because people need to stand up and fight for what they believe in. I'm not taking anything away from the poor and those people that are disenfranchised, because they need the help. But there are organizations like churches that can get out there and help these people, that should be helping these people. My question to the board and to the Mr. Manager is why limit just to the low income? They're getting the help from the federal help, the government already, which is great. But why not help those people that someone just had a baby and maybe she's out of work for a few months and they don't have the extra money, but they don't qualify because for a family of two, it's $28,000 a year. My wife and I don't qualify for that. She makes $33,000 a year, okay? I'm on a fixed income, okay? So it's difficult, and it's embarrassing to come before this board, for neighbors, and make, you know, a plea to the town by keeping taxes low and stuff. So I appreciate this board. I know this is tough, challenging times for everybody, but I would just like to ask if there's any way you could extend this oil, especially if it's taxpayers' money, to everybody across the board, regardless of income guidelines. Thank you.
There's, one of the things I mentioned was the criteria that they use. We have a couple of options in this grant, and this is a thing that a detail the Board of Selectmen will have to work out. And that is either we start the process early and make the, there's a provision in law that the electricity can't be turned off after November 1st if you have an elderly person or children in the house. We could use this money to extend that date further. I'm not sure if it would be back or forward, you know, closer to like right now, so that people don't get shut off before the deadline. We also have an option, as you suggested, of getting those people in the net that would otherwise, that because of the income level, miss out. We said in there that when I spoke to him, that we get a strict accounting. I think I answered. Did I say that part already? Okay. And yeah, I think I hit all the points. Thank you. Sorry.
Selectman Casey?
Point of order.
Yes?
This gentleman has been waiting to speak for.
I'm happy to yield
All right.
the floor if he's been waiting longer.
My apologies, I didn't see your hand. Go right ahead.
Stephen Signetti, 35 Fairlawn Ave in Oxford. I was wondering if there's a breakdown, financial breakdown as to where this money's going. You say $25,000. Does the finance committee have a breakdown as to where that $25,000 is going? For instance, she brought up the administrative costs, etc. Does that break down the administrative costs to WCAC? It does not. She's shaking her head. She's shaking her head no. Also, contributions. Are they going to be the 501c charitable contributions that you can write off on your income tax? Because Salvation Army has a similar setup as WCAC, and they have charitable contributions. Why would you give to WCAC and not get the charitable contribution when you can give to a Salvation Army type setup and get the charitable contribution?
Mr. Town Manager?
There is no administrative cost. WCAC already covers their administrative costs. They run this program. What we give them will be extra money, additional money, and they will target Oxford residents. That's how we will make the grant to them. The other part I forgot already. Charitable contributions, thank you. We did that to draw attention to this. This is all about drawing attention to the local need. I wrote a letter to the banks that have branches here. Hometown Bank has already agreed to contribute $1,000. I just got a promise of $500 from Southbridge Savings Bank. They're just up the road here. Webster 5 is going to give us, I think, $100. because their corporate office does a separate contribution of $2,000. What the whole idea of this article is to draw attention to the local need. You're going to have requests from the Red Cross, the Salvation Army, help out the people in the Gulf Coast who were hit by the hurricane. Charity begins at home. $25,000 to you and me individually, that's a lot of money. But when we talk about heating assistance, if you saw the newspaper article, the state's going to get on the order of $100 million in heating assistance. And the maximum grant is $700. That, at today's, that's like 200 gallons of oil, maybe a tank, depending on what the price is. It's a token, but it says to people, we want to help. We are a community, and we work together to help each other.
Selectman Casey?
I don't want to be redundant, but just a few points that I think are worth mentioning. We've had the term low income put out there, and I think it's important for people to know that when you look at the income criteria, essentially what this program is targeting, and we do have some latitude as far as increasing that income level, it basically targets the hardest working among us who just can't make it for whatever reason. Your oil prices are up, you can't afford to pay your taxes, or whatever it is. These are essentially the working poor. These are the people who go to work every day, 9 to 5 at the factory, and they come home and they have to take care of their 3 children and feed 3 mouths. So I just don't want the perception to be out there that this is, I know that there are stereotypes that this is a low income, it is, but essentially these are the hardest working people among us. They are the backbone of our town. So I just want people to understand that, and we will most certainly take a look at the income level, because in fact there are people who work for the town who may be eligible for this program, just to give you an idea of the people that we're trying to help here. The other thing is, I mean, this is nothing new. Other communities are ahead of us on this. Auburn's had this program in place. I spoke to some people from Auburn. They have charity golf tournaments where they fund this account. Sturbridge has it in place, and they do it internally, and we hope to someday bring it all internal so we can operate it from Oxford using our own agencies. But given the need and given the winter that we're anticipating, and that people are going to be freezing, the elderly, the veterans, the hardworking poor, and we thought it was important enough to bring this vote to you. And this is about our community wanting to help each other. This is the village mentality. And this is free cash, but it's your money. This is the taxpayers' money. So this is a decision that we have to make collectively. Is this a priority? Do we want to help our own out? And the heating assistance is targeted by zip codes. That's what WCAC would use. They use our 3 zip codes. So they know, in fact, Oxford residents are getting it. And one of the other things is that they pay the vendors directly. So it's not that Mrs. Smith shows up and says, I need $600 to fill my oil tank, and Mrs. Smith gets a check for $600 and she leaves and she goes to the casino or whatever if she has a vice. This money is paid directly to the vendor, whether it's the oil company, the electric company, or what have you. So it's a program that works. It's been effective for many communities, and ultimately it's up to us. Does Oxford want to step up to the plate in the time of need and take care of our own?
Motion to move the item. Second.
There's a motion to move the question. Requires a 2/3 vote. So this is not, we're not voting on the article, we're voting on moving the article, which cuts off all further debate. All those in favor of moving the question say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. That cuts off all debate. My apologies to the person who wanted to speak. Now we will vote on the actual article, which is Article 4. All those in favor of Article 4 say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. Motion carries. On to Article 5, to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds and appropriate a sum of money for the town's tercentenary, the 300th celebration, or act thereon, sponsored by the Board of Selectmen.
Mr. Moderator, I move that Article 5 be postponed indefinitely.
She just didn't want to say tercentenary. It's been moved and seconded to postpone indefinitely. The recommendation of the Finance Committee? Finance Committee recommends postponing indefinitely. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, call for the vote. All those in favor of Article 5 say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to transfer $10,000 from the fiscal year 2009 school community services account and appropriate said amount for the fiscal year 2009 school bus transportation account or act thereon. This is sponsored by the school committee.
Excuse me. Mr. Moderator, I move that Article 6 be adopted as printed in the warrant.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Recommendation of the Finance Committee?
We recommend that it be adopted as printed also in the warrant.
Finance Committee recommends that it be adopted as printed in the warrant. Any questions or comments from the floor? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of Article 6 say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries. Article 7, to see if the town will vote to transfer $23,157 from the insurance reimbursement account and appropriate said amount to the fiscal year 2009 school general account or act thereon. This is also sponsored by the school committee.
Mr. Moderator, I move that Article 7 be adopted as printed in the warrant.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Recommendation of the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee recommends that we accept as printed in the warrant.
Finance Committee recommends that it be adopted as printed in the warrant. Any questions or comments from the floor? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor of Article 7 say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds and appropriate a sum of money for the installation of an accessibility ramp at the front Maple Road side of the community center or act thereon. This is sponsored by the town manager.
Mr. Moderator, I move that Article 8 be postponed indefinitely.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Recommendation from the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee recommends that we postpone this indefinitely also.
Finance Committee recommends postponing indefinitely. Questions or comments? Yes, sir. It might have been already on. There you go.
Alan Hammond, 39 Dudley Road. I can appreciate you moving it indefinitely because this is an expenditure that we probably can't afford, but I do think that we should at least discuss it to find out what type of cost this would have been, because the community center is supposed to serve the community. There is no handicap access. I recall when we had the World Series trophy there a few years ago, the handicapped could not access the building, and in case of a large event, you know, I can understand and appreciate not wanting to spend money that we don't have. I'm just curious if it's that large of a sum that we should be postponing indefinitely at this time.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. To the previous speaker, the reason it's being postponed indefinitely is not because the cost is too much. We don't know what the cost will be. So I'm not going to stand here and ask for an amount of money if I don't know what that amount of money is. It was placed on the warrant, and given all of the other details we've been taking care of, we simply don't know what it's going to cost right now. That's the reason for the postponement.
Mr. Manager, is it true that this will probably come back in May or next year, once we do have prices?
That's correct.
Thank you. Just for clarification. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Al? so everybody knows, the lighting in this room is designed to light up the stage, and it's not very bright out there, so don't be afraid to wave your hand a little bit or stand up so I can see better.
Catherine McGeary, Laurelwood Drive. I am active at the community center, and within the past year, I have become handicapped myself. This ramp is important. We need access.
Kevin Smith, 12 Buffalo Dam Road. With all due respect, you asked us to act like a community and step up and act like we care, yet we don't have the means to get an estimated cost to put a ramp at our own community center. If that doesn't say we're not stepping up to the plate and acting like we care about our community, I don't know what does. Thank you.
Alice Walker had her hand up in the front here. Al.
Alice Walker, 568 Main Street. I would suggest that Bay Path staff be contacted and requested if they would possibly assume that as a educational objective for their carpentry people. We've had benefits in the town hall before by using Bay Path facilities and their training program. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. Way up in the back. Just to make things faster, if anybody can come to the front and you know that you have a question or comment, please use the mic. We do have another mic in the front now.
I want to know what happened with the American with Disabilities Act. I mean, this is a community center, and it should have a ramp so that handicapped people could have access to it. Doesn't make any sense to me. But if money's an issue, then why not reach out, like the lady just said up front, Mrs. Walker, check with Bay Path, see if we get some kids up there to volunteer and help build it. And not only that, we also have a proactive Worcester County Sheriff, Guy Glotis, who could probably get his boys out here to do some community service work for the town, just pay for the supplies. I mean, anything. People that are handicapped and disabled shouldn't have to be waiting when they want to be taking part in their town and being involved in their community and have access to the community center. I just don't understand that. I think that with the American Disabilities Act, I think that should be a mandatory law if it's not already. Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments on Article 8? Oh, Ken, sorry, didn't see it. That was only one button now, Ken.
Correct me if
If we can have maintenance turn the mic down, appreciate it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that was a school. I could have sworn there was a ramp on the church side of it, as well as some type of system to get people up to the office and down to that lower floor. Was part of that removed? I mean, yes, I do understand we want the disabled people to be able to access it, but I thought we did have some facilities already there since it was a school.
Mr. Manager?
Now, to the previous speaker is correct. There is an operating chairlift on the stairs. That building is a circa 1950 school building, so it does meet the minimal accessibility requirements. What I had in mind, and you'll note that the town manager requested this article, I could not execute on in a timely fashion to come here and say, I need X number of dollars to do it. It's not that I don't want to do it, I want to do this. But that's, all we were saying is let us postpone it indefinitely, we'll get on with tonight's business, bring it back in May and make it happen. Thank you.
All right, does anybody have anything new? Sarah? a little switch on it, so.
Good evening, Mike Bose, I live on 3 Faith Way. Joe, you've been an engineer for a long time. Certainly you can throw a guesstimate. This isn't rocket science. If you want, call the Mount Brothers tomorrow, I'll have my estimator give you a quick number on it. But you can certainly come up with a number above what it's going to cost. I'm sure we can rely on the town of Boston not to go over that cost. These are handicapped people who are trying to get into the community center. And, if we're going to step up as a community, let's take care of our handicap. I think that's the most important. But I'd like to make a motion that we set a dollar amount on this thing and we vote on it tonight. And I think the engineer slash town manager can certainly come up with a figure that would more than cover the cost.
All right, he made it. Are you making that a motion, sir? Because if you do, you're going to have to come up with a dollar amount. That's the problem.
There's already a motion on the floor from the selectmen. I already made a motion for that.
I'm following up on what he was saying, what the previous speaker was saying.
I don't really know that it requires that I make a dollar amount motion, but if I can certainly come up with a number that would more than cover it, and I would rely on the town not to exceed that amount. I mean, we can say up to a certain dollar amount. I'm sure that, certainly if we're willing to come up with $25,000 for fuel assistance, we're certainly willing to come up with $25,000 for handicapped people to get into the community center. I mean, give me a break.
Point of order, Mr. Moderator, you need to act on the motion already on the floor, Mr. Selectman. You are correct. Hang on.
Okay, just to let you know, the problem with amending the motion is we need to have a dollar amount, and the original motion didn't have that. So I can't even entertain an amendment unless we have a dollar amount to talk about.
Who would you like to set the dollar amount, me or the person that had the original motion? You're the moderator, tell me what you want me to do.
No. I'm just a traffic cop. If you would like to put out a figure,
Okay.
and somebody would like to second it, then we can...
Okay, I make a motion that we allocate $50,000 to construct a ramp, not to exceed. And certainly that's going to more than cover the cost, you don't have to worry. It should not cost $50,000, but I'll make that motion.
All right, we'll get you some paper.
50. And it should cost closer to 15, but this way we don't have to... All right, you know what?
Let's go through the chair, please. We're having a separate conversation out there. The first thing we need to do is, if you would like to amend the motion, you need to do it in writing. And I've got paper. Okay, clarification. On Article 8, the motion and the second on the floor right now is to postpone indefinitely. So in order to even accept an amendment, we need to vote on whether or not to postpone it. If you vote yes, that postpones it, and we cannot take an amendment. If you vote no, then somebody can make an amendment for Article 8. Clear as mud? Everybody with me? All right, so what we're going to do right now is to vote on Article 8, and the motion is to postpone it indefinitely. A yes vote stops the article, a no vote, you're welcome to make an amendment. All those in favor of Article 8 to be postponed indefinitely, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. No. I think the ayes have it. It was close. I'm going to ask for the vote again. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. I declare that it carries. I think the ayes have it. Yes, you may. All right, we should have 6 counters. All right, on the right side is Ann Potter and Ken Germain here. Could you please come forward? In the middle section, Ronald Gagner and Alan Hammond, please. And on the left, Nancy Skibos and Norman Mercier. If you could all come right over here because you have to be sworn in by the town clerk, please. All right, I'm asked Ann to either sit, stand, or step out. All right, all those in favor, please stand, or if you're unable to stand, please raise your hand so that the counters can count you.
Mr. Moderator, would you repeat the motion for people?
Absolutely. This is Article 8. Those standing are in favor of postponing the article indefinitely. That would cut off any amendments. Who's counting the stage? I don't have a chair. All set? Okay, thank you for standing. All those opposed to Article 8 to postpone indefinitely, please stand, or if you're unable, please raise your hand for the counters. That's it. Thank you very much. Okay, there being 83 in the affirmative and 43 in the negative, the article passes, which means it is postponed indefinitely and we cannot entertain an amendment this evening. That was my first hearing check. See how I'm doing on the hearing. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into a grant agreement with the Massachusetts Technology Collaborative and transfer from available funds and appropriate a sum of money to meet a 15% local match requirement for the funding of a study of hydroelectric alternative energy generation opportunities along the French River in Oxford or act thereon. And this is sponsored by the town engineer planner.
Moderator, I move that the town authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into a grant agreement with the Massachusetts Technology Collaborative and that the sum of $4,050 be transferred from free cash and appropriated to the Massachusetts Technology Collaborative Grant Account to meet a 15% local match requirement for the funding of a study of hydroelectric alternative energy generation opportunities along the French River.
It's been moved and seconded. Finance Committee? The Finance Committee recommends Article 9. Any questions or comments from the floor? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of Article 9, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries. Article 10, to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds and appropriate a sum of money to the stabilization account or act thereon. This is sponsored by the town manager.
Moderator, I move that the sum of $25,000 be transferred from the Smolensky Millet donation account to the stabilization account.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. The recommendation of the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee recommends Article 10.
Finance Committee recommends. This article requires a 2/3 vote. And I believe the town manager mentioned before, this is part of the money that was borrowed for the library. This is a payment towards money that the library borrowed from the stabilization account. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. Call for the vote on Article 10. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries. And I declare a 2/3 vote. Article 11, to see if the town will vote to establish the charge for each written demand issued by the town collector, a fee of $10 to be added to and collected as part of the tax as authorized by Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 60, Section 15. Any vote under this article to take effect forthwith upon its adoption or act thereon. And this is sponsored by the Finance Director.
Mr. Moderator, I move that Article 11 be adopted as printed in the warrant.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Recommendation of the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee recommends Article 11.
Finance Committee recommends Article 11 be adopted as printed in the warrant. Any questions or comments from the floor? I saw this hand first.
What are other towns in the area charging?
Name and address for the...
Jason Dees, 53 Plantation Road.
Thank you, Jason. Somebody like to reply?
Don Kaminsky, the tax collector. The majority of the communities in Massachusetts charging $10 have requested $10. However, not all of them are. Some are going across a whole variety of charges. For example, they're charging a sum of $10 for motor vehicle excise, $15 for personal property, and $30 for real estate. We just want $10 across the board.
Can everybody hear that mic okay? Is it? No. I think when they turn this mic down, they turn that mic down.
Mike Perry, Howard Road. I just wondered, where's the money going? Is it going into the general fund, or is that a fee to the collector? Some towns, the collector is part of it. I just want to know the...
Mr. Manager?
The fees, all the fees go into the general fund.
In case you didn't hear, the $10 fee would go into the general fund. Any other questions or comments on Article 11? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of Article 11, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. Motion carries. Article 12, to see if the town will vote to amend the vote taken under Article 19 of the May 2, 2007 annual town meeting by reducing the borrowing authorization for the construction of sewers in Beverly Street from $200,000 to $175,000 or act thereon. This is sponsored by the Finance Director.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to amend the vote taken under Article 19 of the May 7, 2007 adjourned session of the annual town meeting by reducing the borrowing authorization for the construction of sewers in Beverly Street from $200,000 to $175,000.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Recommendation of the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee recommends accepting this.
Finance Committee recommends Article 12. Any questions or comments from the floor? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of Article 12 say aye. Aye. All those opposed to Article 12 say no. Motion carries unanimously. It's amazing. You reduced it by 25,000 and nobody voted against it. Maybe I shouldn't be so amazing. Article 13, to see if the town will vote to accept the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Sections 42A through 42F, that will make unpaid water charges legally secured claims and protected from bankruptcy filings or act thereon. This is sponsored by the Finance Director.
Mr. Moderator, I move that Article 13 be adopted as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Article 13 has been moved and seconded. Recommendation of the Finance Committee?
We recommend Article 13.
Finance Committee recommends Article 13. Questions or comments from the floor? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of Article 13, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. Article carries. Article 14, to see if the town will vote to accept the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 83, Section 16A through 16F, that will make unpaid sewer charges legally secured claims and protected from bankruptcy filings or act thereon. This is also sponsored by the Finance Director.
Mr. Moderator, I move that Article 14 be adopted as printed in the warrant.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Finance Committee recommendation?
Finance Committee recommends accepting Article 14.
Finance Committee recommends Article 14. Questions or comments from the floor? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of Article 14, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. Article carries. Article 15, to see if the town will vote to abandon all right, interest, and title in the fee easement or location of a portion of Old Charlton Road, also known as Rocky Hill Road, from a point approximately 260 feet east of the eastern boundary of land identified on Assessor's Map 22 as Parcel B 03.01, 28 Old Charlton Road, through land of J.S. Lane, approximately 4,225 feet to the eastern end of the road at the French River or act thereon. This is sponsored by the town engineer.
Mr. Moderator, I move that Article 15 be adopted as printed in the warrant.
Second.
I disagree with that.
Yep, just one second. It's been moved and seconded. I'm going to get to you. Is it a point of order? Is something written wrong, or?
No, I don't agree with it.
Oh, okay, all right. Be right with you. We need a recommendation from the Finance Committee first.
Finance Committee recommends.
Finance Committee recommends. And we also need a recommendation from the Planning Board, who's been sitting there patiently all night.
Yes, we recommend this article.
And they recommend this article. All right, sir, if you use the mic, please say your name. Oh, wait a minute.
Hello?
One second, sir. I just noticed you're in the non-voter section. Are you a registered voter of Oxford?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
But I own the land there, on the bottom.
Okay. We have a landowner who would like to talk about this article? The person who actually owns the land, although they are not a resident. Unless there are any objections, I would like to allow the speaker to proceed. Hearing none. Sir, name and address.
David Goodall. I live on Old Oxford Road, Charlton. I own a piece of land that's on Old Charlton Road, Oxford, which they're trying to take and abandon the road. Now, when I first bought that land, it had very little frontage. So I bought a piece in front of it, and which comes to a point, like a pie shape. And by eliminating the road, they're going to eliminate my frontage. I suggest they move the taking down maybe 100 feet to allow me access to that piece of land. Otherwise, it's going to be landlocked. And I think that's illegal for a town to take land and make it landlocked. Okay, there's 2 parcels in there. And the one that's going to be landlocked is the one I bought 10 years after the first piece. The first piece I bought in 68, the second piece I bought in 77. And that, like I say, came to a point which gave me frontage. Now, by taking away the road, I no longer have frontage there. There will be a little tiny bit of frontage that went with the first piece, but it'll be eliminated by on the second piece. I got a plan here to show you. I would suggest putting this off or something, or actually taking the road and leaving 100 feet of the road open, and then they can take the rest of it and eliminate it, whatever.
I'm going to ask that our town planner engineer refer to the map here so that people know what's going on. He can explain a little better, okay? If you can't see, sir, if you can't see, you're welcome to come over here so you can see the chart.
Point of order, Mr. Moderator. As a non-resident, do I need to be sworn in to speak?
Because you are an employee, no.
Okay.
We need your information.
David Manukian, town engineer. The purpose of this article was to abandon a portion of road that we understood was owned by J.S. Lane. And Mr. Goodall, I thought you and I had spoken, but perhaps I was mistaken. We did speak, but perhaps I misunderstood the gist of the conversation.
Since that time, I thought it over, and I realized that I'm going to be losing whatever frontage I have on that piece, and I don't want to lose it. I would like to extend the road down, leave the road where it is, probably for 100 feet, or whatever it takes to give me legal access into that piece.
Mr. Engineer, was it our thought that this was not going to affect his land? And does his comments affect what we're trying to do with this article?
At the time we proposed this article, my understanding was that Mr. Goodall was comfortable with this article. However, there is no immediate time urgency on this, and as representing the planning department, I would be comfortable resolving any issues to make sure that the property owner's rights are protected.
Selectman Casey?
Moderator, I would make a motion to amend this article to postpone it indefinitely.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to amend this article to postpone it indefinitely. I just want to be clear, by postponing indefinitely, it can be brought back.
That's correct.
Okay, so the engineer can work on this discussion, and because of the way that we're voting on this, it can be brought back perhaps in the next 6 months or a year to be reconsidered. But obviously we need to work some problems out. So it's been moved and seconded to amend this to postpone indefinitely. So right now we were just voting on the amendment. Yep. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Sir?
Hi, Chris Houston, Charlton Street. I know that the Mid-State Trail uses that section of road, and I'm wondering what becomes of the right to use that as an access way for the Mid-State Trail, because it does run up that road. when you abandon the road, does that go back to Lane and it's up to him whether the trail goes? Do you have any idea? Did you not know?
We're going to ask our engineer, or
We were aware that the Mid-State Trail was using that, and I did try to contact UMass Extension. I did not hear back from them. If this road was abandoned as proposed now, the Mid-State Trail would need to negotiate directly with the property owners. The abutting property owners would have rights to the center of the existing road.
Okay, because for a lot of the trail uses in that area, Lane and Son is not particularly amenable to people using land that is his, so that would maybe effectively mean that we couldn't use that at all.
All right, I'm going to say at this point, right now we're talking about the amendment, and if it gets laid on the table, it's not going to have any effect. What you're saying isn't going to have any effect. So I'm going to ask if there are any other comments about the amendment.
Norman Mercier, 99 Lovett Road. I'm in favor of the amendment. I was going to ask something of that. There are a couple pieces of property that the town abandoned. One's a right-of-way and one's an old road. And landowners have paid up to $10,000 of their own money, had damaged property because there's a dispute over the right-of-way after the town abandoned it. So I would be in favor of a little more legwork be done on this abandonment of the road. I'm in favor of the amendment.
Thank you. Any other comments about the amendment? Hearing none, I'm going to call for the vote. This is Article 15. The amendment is to postpone indefinitely. All those in favor of the amendment to Article 15, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. All right, that becomes the main motion. Oh, yeah, that was unanimous. That becomes the main motion. All those in favor of Article 15, which is now to postpone indefinitely, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we're doing pretty well, but at this point, if you're able to, I need everyone to stand up for one moment. Those are like 1-hour chairs. I need everybody to stand up for one moment. And when you came in, all the voters when you came in, you all get a card like this. All right? There should be 4 people, one person from precinct 1, 2, 3, and 4, that have the number 13 circled in red. If you do, to thank you for coming this evening, at random I picked that number, and you get a prize. Now, just to be clear, because I know you're all wondering, the prizes were not paid for with town money. They came out of my pocket. And for those of you who are not winning a prize, I just want to let you know it's a lottery ticket. I decided on lottery tickets for the prize because I know the money needs, the state needs the money. So I figured 2 for 1. Thank you for standing and stretching, and thank you for attending the meeting this evening. All right, on to... Okay, now we get into the really fun articles. I love these. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to A, accept the provision of Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section 139, which allows that no fee shall be charged for a license for a dog owned by a person aged 70 years or over, and B, amend the general bylaw, Chapter 51, Regulation of Dogs, by adding the following sentence to the end of Section 2, fees or act thereon. No fee shall be charged for a license for a dog owned by an Oxford resident who, upon presentation of a valid form of identification, is age 70 or over before April 30th of the year in which the license is to be obtained. And this is sponsored by the Board of Selectmen.
Moderator, I move that Article 16 be adopted as printed in the warrant.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Finance Committee?
Finance Committee recommends accepting.
Finance Committee recommends accepting Article 16. School Committee? Just wanted to see if they were paying attention. By the way, I did do the math, and it's 490 dog years. Are there any questions or comments about Article 16? I see a hand in the back. Oh, actually, I saw this gentleman first. Yeah, and then we'll go right over here.
Ron Gagner, 150 Southbridge Road, North Oxford. Are still the rabies requirements and everything else in place for this, when, being that I am 428 dog years old, that when I do go to get a license for a dog, if I get a dog, that the rabies requirements will still be in provision, so that people thinking just because you're 70, you'll get a free license and your dog is not required to have rabies shots.
Mr. Manager?
That's correct. This article only waives the fee, not the requirements for vaccination or other. You also have to leash your dog and keep him behaved.
Peter Smith, Joe Jenny Road. Part of my question was answered, but how do you do the verification?
We usually check your teeth. Oh, that's the dogs.
The article, the sentence that's being added to the provision speaks to a valid means of identification. If you're 70 and driving, that would be valid. If you don't drive, I believe the Registry of Motor Vehicles has ID cards, birth certificate, some proof that you will be 70 before April 30th of the year you're coming in to get your dog license.
I'm talking about proof of vaccination.
That's the same that we do now. We do that now.
You still get a license, you just don't pay.
Yeah, just as a point of clarification.
Only thing it's changing is that if you're 70 or over, you can have your dog license, but you don't have to pay the fee.
Okay. Any other new questions or comments? We all, Joe?
How many people do we know that are not going to pay for the licensing fee? It's my understanding as an animal owner that the money that I pay to license my cats, that it goes to the animal control, support the animal control of the animals in the shelter. Is that going to cause devastation to, which I already had plenty of talk about, we need animal shelters in this town, or abandoned animals. I mean, they're in such a small area now as it is, and God bless Ziggy used to make these guys homes. But we don't have Ziggy anymore. I just want to make sure that the animals, the welfare of the animals is still going to be protected. If we have a lot of lost revenue coming from waiving the fees for the cats and dogs. I'm in favor of it, but I just want to make sure it's not going to be detrimental to the animals.
Okay, since you didn't use the mic, just so everybody understands, I believe your question is, because we'll be taking in less money for licenses, how will it affect the animal control officer's budget?
And the animals that are being housed in the shelter. Correct.
We don't know for certain. I did, quite interestingly, check the census, and on the census there were a little over 10,000 people who responded. That's out of the 13,000 who we believe live here. There were only about 1,600 people aged 65 or over. I didn't check for 70 or over, but I have no way of knowing, you know, if it's 1,200 people who live in this town that are age 70 or over, I have no way of knowing whether they own dogs or not. We don't check that now. If we, I assure you, we'll take care of the dogs. If we find that this is a problem, we'll have to make an adjustment later, which might be raising the fees.
Well, again, Mr. Manager, I had mentioned this to Selectman Casey a while back. If that's the case, seeing that the Oxford Animal Control and the shelter we have now is so outdated and despicable, why can't the town of Oxford do a tri-county with either Charlton, Webster, and Dudley, and get together and have one South County shelter for all the animals for all the towns, and that way everybody will pitch in.
I say, we're getting off the subject of the fee. I appreciate your comments. Are there any other new comments, questions about Article 16? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of Article 16, please say woof. All those opposed say no. The woofs have it. Article 17. To see if the town will vote to amend the general bylaw, Chapter 51, Regulation of Dogs, by adding the following sentence to the end of Section 3, Dog License Late Charges or Act thereon. No late charge shall be required in order to obtain a license for a dog owned by an Oxford resident who, upon presentation of a valid form of identification, is age 70 or over before April 30th of the year in which the license is to be obtained. This is sponsored by the Board of Selectmen.
Moderator, I move that Article 17 be adopted as printed in the warrant.
It's been moved and seconded. Recommendation of the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee recommends.
The Finance Committee recommends Article 17. Any questions or comments from the floor? Basically, we're not going to charge people over 70 for the license, and if they come in a few days late, they're not going to get the late fee either. All right, hearing no other discussion, all those in favor of Article 17 say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Article 17 passes, carries. Article 18, to see if the town will vote to amend the general bylaws, Chapter 61, Regulations pertaining to cats, by adding the following sentence to the end of Section 1, General Requirements or Act thereon. No fee shall be charged for a license for a cat owned by an Oxford resident who, upon presentation of a valid form of identification, is age 70 or over before April 30th of the year in which the license is to be obtained. This again is sponsored by the Board of Selectmen.
Mr. Moderator, I move that Article 18 be adopted as printed in the warrant.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Recommendation of the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee recommends.
Finance Committee recommends. Any other questions or comments from the floor? Basically what we did for the dog owners, we're doing for the cat owners. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. Article 18, to see if the town will vote to amend the general bylaws, Chapter 61, Regulations pertaining to cats, by adding the following sentence to the end of Section 1, General Requirements or Act thereon. No fee shall be charged for a license for a cat owned by an Oxford resident who, upon presentation of a valid form of identification, is age 70 or over before April 30th of the year in which the license is to be obtained. I just read the same. I started on the right one, but I read the one above it. It's actually Article 19 that we're on, which is the late fee. To see if the town will vote to amend the general bylaws, Chapter 61, Regulation pertaining to cats, by adding the following sentence to the end of Section 2, Late Charges or Act thereon. No late charge shall be required in order to obtain a license for a cat owned by an Oxford resident who, upon presentation of a valid form of identification, is age 70 or over before April 30th of the year in which the license is to be obtained. This again is sponsored by the Board of Selectmen.
Moderator, I move that Article 19 be adopted as printed in the warrant.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Recommendation of the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee recommends.
Finance Committee recommends. Any questions or comments from the floor? I see a hand up in the back.
Hello, my name is Bob Merriam from Merriam District, and my question is, are there any restrictions as to the number of a person having so many cats and so many dogs, of which we read in the paper sometimes, and the number goes up to 30?
Bob, that's not within the scope of the article. Just for information purposes, I'll let somebody answer, but it doesn't apply here. Does anyone know?
Huh? That's what I thought.
I don't believe there's a limit, Mr. Merriam. I can tell you, though, that there is a provision in the keeping of dogs that if you have 4 or more, you have to get a kennel license.
That's right.
We didn't change the fee on that. You didn't change the fee on that. But cats, no, I don't recall that. If it becomes a nuisance, then we have had to bring animal control in if they're not taken care of, feral cats. And unless you have them, do you call it fixed? Spayed, neutered. Then they'll just do what.
Okay, I thank you for the answer, but I've been reading the paper where there's been many, many cats and they haven't been taken care of.
Okay, is there any other new questions or comments about Article 19? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of Article 19, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Article 19 carries. Article 20, to see if the town will vote to amend the Oxford General Bylaws, Chapter 35, Barriers on Excavation, by deleting Section 1 and Section 2 and inserting the following, or act thereon. Section 1, no person shall cause to be made the excavation of a trench on public ways, public property, or private property without having fully complied with the requirements of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 82A and 520 CMR 14.00. Section 2, the DPW Director shall serve as the permitting authority for the implementation of 520 CMR 14.00 and shall be responsible for the issuance of trench permits to any entity that performs trench excavation work in the town of Oxford and shall be responsible for the coordination of the issuance of trench permits with the permits issued by the building inspector, wiring inspector, plumbing inspector, Board of Health, and the DPW. The fee for trench permit shall be established by the DPW Director, subject to the approval of the Board of Selectmen. Section 3, this bylaw may be enforced by Town of Oxford police officers, the DPW Director or his designee, the building inspector, the wiring inspector, the plumbing inspector, or the sewerage inspector. Section 4, any person who violates the provisions of Section 1 of this bylaw or the terms of a trench permit issued in accordance with this chapter shall be subject to a fine of $50 for each offense, each day of the continued violation being considered a separate offense. In lieu of enforcement through criminal proceedings, any enforcing person may, at his or her discretion, enforce this bylaw by non-criminal disposition in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40, Section 21D. This is sponsored by the town manager.
Mr. Moderator, I move that Article 20 be adopted as printed in the warrant.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Recommendation of the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee would like to defer to the Planning Board.
Finance Committee defers to the Planning Board.
We enact on this.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry, I said, the Finance Committee recommends.
Finance Committee has reconsidered and they recommend Article 20. Questions from the floor? I see a hand in the back there.
Mike Perry, Howard Road. I just have a couple of questions. The permit, is that required above the building inspectors, the wire inspector, plumbing inspector, Board of Health, so forth? Is that an additional fee that everybody's going to be charged? Because as we know, the fees are already substantial when you go pull a permit. So is that going to be piggybacked on those fees, where there's not an additional fee if you're putting in a septic system, let's say? Are you going to need to get a trench permit for a septic system after paying the Board of Health fees? Or if you're doing a trench for wiring to your house and you're pulling a building permit, a wiring permit fee, do you then have to go to the DPW and get another permit for a trench? I think it's doubling up. If it was a case of getting the law in place because we need to cover state standards, then is it possible that these other agencies can become issuing agencies for these permits so that a homeowner's not getting double hit? Because even though the contract is paying, it's always subject to permits. So if it's, a trench is being dug, it's plus permits. So the homeowner is ultimately paying these permit fees if there are an additional one. And what is the amount of that fee? Is it a $25 fee or a $200 fee?
Mr. Manager, would you like to tackle?
Try to answer the questions as stated. In reverse order, the permit fee has not been established. Article 2 says that it will be set by the DPW director subject to the approval of the Board of Selectmen. I'm sorry, that's section 2 of the article. The intent of that same section is that the DPW director will coordinate the trench permits, which is something, by the way, we have to do by law starting January 1st, I think. It's January 2009. It had been postponed, but now we have to do this. The coordination would suggest to me that the DPW director will simply make sure that when the septic system permit that you pull to install a septic system incorporates thereon the requirements for trench safety. Now, real quick, a trench by law is any hole in the ground that's more than 3 feet deep, but less than 15 feet wide. So on most building permits where you're building a house, even a garage, even a one-car garage, the excavation is going to be more than 15 feet wide. That's not considered a trench. It's the trench mostly for a sewer connection, a water connection, back to the septic system. We were talking about this today in the town hall. Perk test. When you dig a hole to evaluate the soil, that has to be properly protected. In some cases, the fire department issues permits for underground storage tanks. That would fit the criteria. But the notion of coordination with those people is what's important here. It's not our intent to make money on this. We would only set the fee as an independent. I believe the only thing that would make sense is if something that we didn't have to issue, we didn't receive a fee for otherwise, like maybe a water service. If you're digging a water service, you'll need to get a trench permit, and we don't charge for that because we don't license that. So it's our intent is to simply comply with the law and not to make money on it.
Follow-up question?
I just want to be clear. I mean, if you mentioned perk test, if someone needs a perk test done, are we just going to the Board of Health and getting a permit and we're done there? Or do we have to go chase down the DPW director and get another permit from him? I mean, if we do, whoever that contractor is going to charge that extra 2 hours to chase down the DPW director, and that's going to be, several $100s by the time you get that permit. If it's a $20 fee, it's $100 for the person to go chase it down. Everything's by the hour. Everybody gets paid by the hour. That's going to get passed down to us. So can you word this or amend this so that it's part of the fees that are already in place? Because there's no other step to take. You're just going to, on the Board of Health regulations, make sure the trench is secure and you have to work by these guidelines. It's not a case where you should be taking another step to get another permit. We have enough restrictions. The town has enough things to collect as it is. I understand we're trying to cover the state, but we need to cover the homeowner too. Small government is good.
It can be done, yeah. The key here, and maybe I didn't make myself clear, and I apologize for that. The key here is coordination. Any of you who are familiar with working in the town hall know that the DPW is right across the hall from the land management office, where we have conservation, board of health, engineering, planning, building permits, all the inspectors are in there. It's very well coordinated in Oxford. It's not going to be I don't see a need for an extra fee. It's simply a matter of the DPW director perhaps signing off, just as he does now, as when he, on the septic system plan where there's a driveway. If you're going to cut a driveway into a public road, you have to get approval of the DPW. We do it. It's very well coordinated. It's not going to take you another 2 hours or another day. It works well.
Do you have any other questions or comments on Article 21? Excuse me, Article 20.
Norman Mercier, 99 Lovett Road. It's not that I'm not in favor of this. I know this came about because a young girl was playing in a trench and it caved in on her and she died. And our town manager says we're very well coordinated. But I know contractors who have gone to the town hall and it's a day or two later before they can get something inspected. I would just like to make a comment that perhaps the town hall remember that when a homeowner has something done, the contractor is charging by the hour. And if they have to chase around the town hall and wait for somebody to come out and inspect it, which is good, but I think they have to coordinate where they're going and when they're doing it, and they show up when they say they will, because even though our manager says everything's coordinated, I know it's not. And there's a lot of contractors who know it's not, and there's a lot of homeowners who have waited 2 or 3 days for something to get inspected before it can be done. So I think our town hall has to think about these extra things that need to be done, and think about not the contractor, but the homeowner, because they're the ones that pay. Thank you.
Selectman Casey?
I just want to remind everybody that this is new, and as it was pointed out, it's another state regulation that we've had to adopt to comply with a new state law that is somewhat of a knee-jerk reaction to a tragedy and a young girl was killed. So we are planning on implementing this per requirements as of January 1, 2009. There may not even be a permit, an additional fee. We just don't know how this is going to work. As you can see by the article, we have named a number of individuals who would be qualified to inspect. Okay, we've got police officers, DPW director or his designee, building inspector, and if we have to expand the scope of those inspectors, we will, to comply, to make sure that the homeowner is not the one paying the fee, because it is quite expensive. So give us a chance to put this in place. We'll look at the fees. We're pretty cheap as a Board of Selectmen. We've been asked to increase fees, and we generally don't give people the increase that they want, if anything. So give us a chance to put this in place, and we'll make it work as best we can. So I just want people to realize that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the floor on Article 20? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of Article 20, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. Motion carries. Article 20 is adopted. Article 21, to see if the town will vote to amend the Oxford zoning map by including in the central business CB district all of the land north of Sutton Avenue between the railroad and Walcott Street, currently in the general business GB district, a plan of which is on file in the office of the town clerk or act thereon. And this is sponsored by the Board of Selectmen.
Moderator, I move that Article 21 be adopted as printed in the warrant.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Recommendation of the Finance Committee?
This article, the Finance Committee defers to the Planning Board.
Finance Committee defers to the Planning Board.
We recommend.
Planning Board recommends. This article does require a 2/3 vote. Questions or comments from the floor? Joe? Wait till the mic gets into it.
What's this going to do to the current businesses that are there now? Are they going to be grandfathered in, such as Dunkin' Donuts? We all know the problems we have there. By changing this, what's going to happen to the existing business like McDonald's and whatnot?
All right, Joe, just to be clear, the article talks about north of Sutton Ave, so the Dunkin' Donuts is on the south side of Sutton. Just for your information. Does that answer your question, or?
Yeah.
It does. Yeah, so the north side, just for information, the north side of Sutton Ave is the side that is across the street from Dunkin'. Any other questions or comments? Yeah.
Gina Riley, Fort Hill Road. I fully understand the rationale behind this article, but I do have some questions. First of all, why is it being limited to the north side of Sutton Avenue? And my second question is, if stop-and-go businesses, if you will, are prohibited from being in this area, where would you expect them to go? Or be located, I should say. Thank you.
Why is it limited to the north side? The north side is basically generally undeveloped, and I'm trying to picture it as I stare out the audience, with homes. All this does is described in your handout, the explanation of articles. It will prohibit an additional gas station, coffee shop, or fast food restaurant. That's basically the three types of businesses, the fast turnover types of businesses, or it's been characterized as the get and go types of businesses. Any other business can go there. Okay? And I think, the second part of the question was why the north side, because the south side is pretty much already developed. As was suggested over here, they would then become pre-existing non-conforming. Any change they would make, even an improvement kind of change, would require approval from the Zoning Board of Appeals. This eliminates that, doesn't make it more difficult for those businesses. The north side, you'll recall, I can recall like 4 or 5 houses there. If they're ever sold and turned into vacant lots, the businesses could develop generally quite unrestricted. Other than that, get and go type of business.
Just a point of information, in the explanation of articles, there is a map underneath Article 21, which might help you visualize where this is. Are there any other questions or comments about Article 21? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of Article 21, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. I declare a 2/3 vote. Article 21 passes. Article 22. To see if the town will vote to amend the Oxford zoning map by including in the general business GB district land located between the center line of Harwood Street and the center line of Mayfair Circle, between the center line of Main Street, Route 12, to the east, and a line parallel to the center line of Main Street and 200 feet distant therefrom to the west, a part of which is on file in the office of the town clerk or act thereon, sponsored by the property owners.
Moderator, I move that Article 22 be adopted as printed in the warrant.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Recommendation of the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee defers to the Planning Board.
Finance Committee defers to Planning Board.
Planning Board recommends.
The Planning Board recommends Article 22. Questions or comments from the floor? Again, there should be a illustration on
Susan Gustafson on Mayfair Circle. The owner of this facility is the owner of 101 Main Street that would like to have this go from residential, which is now what it is, to business zoned. He's the owner of the car wash, and this is the lot that is in question. There is a residential garage that was built with a residential permit and used for residential use on that lot. He has expressed interest to put in an auto body shop in this garage. I would like this area to be left residential. I don't really want to encourage any more businesses in this area. There's many homes in this area with lots of children. There's no sidewalks on either side of Main Street in this part of South Oxford. And as of now, the owner has not always adhered to the responsibilities of being an owner of this car wash. I, as a resident of this neighborhood, have had to get after him to adhere to his business hours, which he is now doing once I've said something. I had to complain about a gate that was broken, and then he fixed it. I feel that I shouldn't have to be the cop in this neighborhood every time a business doesn't adhere to the rules and regulations. And so I'm fearful about what kind of business, and is he going to adhere to rules and regulations if he puts in an auto body shop? Also, he had gone before the planning board to ask to rent the home on this lot next to the car wash, which is part of the car wash lot. And while he was asking for this permit, there was a person living in there. I just hope everybody, I just try to encourage everybody to vote against this, because I would like this to stay as a residential area. I don't want any more businesses in this area. There's too many children, no sidewalks, and I'm afraid what kind of business is going to go in this garage.
Any other questions or comments on Article 22? Town engineer?
David Manukian, Town Engineer. Wanted to bring up 2 points regarding the planning board's support of this article. One is that this is restoring to general business a corridor along Route 12, which had been general business in the past. Second is that by returning it to general business, the planning board has jurisdiction through a site plan review process to review and, if requested, to hold a public hearing on any change of use for any business there. So there will be an opportunity for public comment on any proposed business in this area. That public comment can apply to things such as adequate parking, protection or screening from the business and residential areas, and other related issues.
I have a request from a non-voter. Are there any other voters that have any comments before I'm going to start over here.
I'm Deborah Lofty at 3 Harwood Street. I'm in a butter to the property, and I just want to say I'm against it also. Nobody on that premises, the owner before the one that's there now and this one, has been very diligent in sticking with the rules that the town has put out there. The shed that they're talking about is really a large barn. It was supposed to be a shed for personal use. And it's this huge thing that was never really supposed to go there. And the original owner that built it said it was going to be for personal use, and it never was. He ran a business out of there. And the current owner now has been flip-flopping on that property with different zoning changes. They've gone from residential in the house to business with a car wash. Now they want to go back to the business zone for the big barn. And it's too many uses on a little piece of property. You have the 5-Star Academy across the street, a lot of kids in the area, and it is a real hazard.
We have another resident in the back now.
Yeah, where is this? Is this the car wash on Main Street, the self-service one?
This is the garage right next to the gas station, right after.
Just so everybody can hear, this is the
Is that the big metal building that's attached on that property?
Exactly.
That sure looks commercial to me,
But
for
it was
business.
built with a residential permit.
All right, so let's fix it tonight and make it commercial.
We've got a hand up in the back.
Hi, Randy Ford from 43 Coffin Road in North Oxford. I previously owned the property there. I built the car wash. I built the steel building. This neighbor behind me said I ran businesses out of that garage. Never have I ever run a business out of that garage. That has always been for personal use. I built that garage in 2001 under the understanding it was a personal garage, and I really feel bad that this woman can sit here and call me a liar and say I ran a business out of here. Thank you.
Okay, we do have a non-resident who is a landowner in that section, and unless I hear any disagreement, I'd like to allow that person to speak. Sir?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Mark Marziotti. My wife and I purchased the business back in February. There were a number of rules and regulations as it related to the business. As we got acquainted to the business and managed it the way, or put it into the shapes that we wanted it, there were some hiccups in that I think I opened 20 minutes early or a half hour early in one case, and maybe was open 20 minutes later or a half hour later in the evening. So I'm an upstanding citizen. I'm a professional business person, and I take a lot of pride in the business that is being run there today. All of the guidelines that the planning board in the town has set forth, I have complied with. Any time that there was an issue, it was brought to my attention and immediately rectified. The gate was broken when we first bought the property, didn't have the ability to put it back together right away, and found out that the gate was supposed to be closed at night, so I immediately picked up some funds and put it back together. We're 100%, 110% in compliance with what the town is asking us to do. As I had mentioned, I take a lot of pride, we take a lot of pride in the business. We've made many, many changes there, and I've sat back during a lot of the planning board meetings and let the public speak about how terrible the business is and how bad it is. And so I just want to, for the record, state and let everyone see who I am and the type of business that I run. I hope that people have driven by there and have seen compliance and have seen a site that they can be proud of as they drive by. I have children as well, and children are a major priority for me, and the safety of them, the safety of any patron that visits this business, and that's top priority. In fact, I just want to make, just for the record, today I actually was invited to attend from the Worcester Chamber of Commerce, an award. The business received an award for the ecological properties that it has, in that we reclaim 80% of the water at that facility, and we use the light, the solar rays of the sun to heat that building, and we use biodegradable soaps. So that business is all about the community that you folks live in, and I hope that you allow this property to go back to general business. It had been general business forever before any neighborhoods were there. It was changed temporarily a few years ago to residential for I'm not sure what reasons. The only request that I have is that we change it back to general business like every other parcel of land is along the Main Street area on the south side of this business and on the north side of this business. I should say most parcels of land on the north and south side of this business. And I also respect the neighborhood that it is in behind. I live in a home, and I would expect the same if I had purchased a property, a residential property that abutted a general business property. I have 100% of utmost respect for that, and I would never do anything to offer a detriment, to be a detriment to that neighborhood. And for the record, I do not have any plans at this point to put any business whatsoever in that building. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the floor about Article 22? Hearing none, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor of Article 22, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. All right, this requires a 2/3 vote. I'm going to ask for the vote again, just so I'm clear. All those in favor of Article 22, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. I declare a 2/3 vote. Article 22 passes. Article 23, to see if the town will vote to accept Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44B, Sections 3 through 7, known as the Community Preservation Act, which establishes a special community preservation fund that may be appropriated and spent for certain open space, historic resources, and affordable housing purposes, to approve a property tax surcharge in an amount not to exceed 3% of the taxes assessed annually on real property, which shall be dedicated to the fund. Such surcharge to be imposed on taxes assessed for fiscal years beginning on or after July 1, 2009, and to exempt from the surcharge any or all of the following. 1. Property owned and occupied as a domicile by a person who will qualify for low-income housing or low or moderate income senior housing in the community. 2. Class 3 commercial and Class 4 industrial property in any year the town adopts a higher tax rate for those classes. Or 3. $100,000 of the assessed valuation of Class 1 residential parcels or act thereon. This is sponsored by the Open Space Committee.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to accept Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44B, Sections 3 through 7, known as the Community Preservation Act, which establishes a special community preservation fund that may be appropriated and spent for certain open space, historic resources, and affordable housing purposes, to approve a property tax surcharge in the amount of 1 1/2% of the taxes assessed annually on real property, which shall be dedicated to the fund. Such surcharge to be imposed on taxes assessed for fiscal years beginning on or after July 1, 2009, and to exempt from the surcharge the following property. Property owned and occupied as a domicile by a person who would qualify for low-income housing or low or moderate income senior housing in the community, and $100,000 of the assessed valuation of Class 1 residential parcels.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Recommendation of the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee does not recommend.
The Finance Committee does not recommend Article 23. Recommendation of the Planning Board.
We recommend.
The Planning Board does recommend Article 23. I'm going to start this evening with the Chairman of the Open Spaces Committee for information.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Alice Shaw, and I'm Chairman of the Open Space Committee. I grew up in Oxford, went to Oxford schools, graduated from Oxford High School.
Alice, can we have your address too?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry to interrupt.
17 Douglas Road. I came back to Oxford 16 years ago, and I enjoy living in Oxford because of its small-town historic atmosphere. I believe the residents in the town should have a chance to vote on the Community Preservation Act this May on the ballot, that everyone should have a chance to vote on it. So tonight, we're only asking for your vote to put it on the ballot in May. If you vote yes tonight, it doesn't pass the CPA, it just puts it on the ballot in May of 2009. The Community Preservation Act allows Massachusetts cities and towns to finance and exercise control over open space protection, historic preservation, community housing, and recreational facilities. If we adopt the Community Preservation Act, state funds will help us pay for these projects that we want and need to do anyway. And in these stressful financial times, I think that it's very prudent to bring in as much state funds as we possibly can. Some of the things the CPA funds might allow us to do are to expand recreational facilities, such as making new ball fields at Roll Field, or pay for repairs and upkeep of our historic buildings, like the town hall. And community housing, such as keeping some homes in Oxford affordable for teachers, police officers, firefighters, and our elderly citizens. There are many places in town we all enjoy and would miss dearly if they were gone, such as Oxford's wide, beautiful, historic Main Street, or access to the French River, or lose the Huguenot Fort area. So how does it work? The Community Preservation Act is funded by a surcharge on our annual real estate taxes. The surcharge can be set 1% to 3%. The Open Space Committee is proposing a surcharge of 1.5%. And all of the exemptions allowed by the law, which are to exempt low-income individual and families, moderate-income seniors, and the first $100,000 of residential property value. The average homeowner who pays $2,000 a year in real estate taxes will pay approximately $37.50 a year, or 72 cents a week, to support projects that will preserve the character of our town. Whatever funds are raised locally are then matched by the state CPA trust fund, making our local funds go even further. Let me clarify this state money. It comes from fees collected on deed transfers done across the state by the Registry of Deeds. Currently, we lose this money to towns that have passed the CPA. The current matching rate is 65%, or Oxford would have received 65 cents for every dollar raised locally. And that is an unbelievable return on our investment in our town. We have talked to other towns that have implemented the CPA, and of course, implementing anything new requires that the town hall staff would have some additional work, but any of them, none of them hired any additional staff positions. 130 towns have adopted the CPA since 2002. The law allows any town that has passed the CPA to review the surcharge percentage yearly and to vote the CPA surcharge out after 5 years. Some towns who have passed the CPA and have been receiving these funds since 2002, when the CPA went into effect, and to date, none of them have rescinded the CPA. This fact speaks loudly that the towns are very happy with the benefits secured for their towns through the CPA. I feel that Oxford deserves to reap the benefits of these funds and would like Oxford to be proactive and instead of us having to be reactive. I'm asking you tonight to vote with the Open Space Committee to put this on the May 2009 ballot and let the townspeople vote on adopting the CPA in Oxford. Thank you.
We have a question in the back. Oh, and then Alice.
It's me again. This is a tax. The real estate tax is the most aggressive tax there is. Homeowners, whether you're fixed, seniors, whatnot, your property taxes are going to skyrocket. It's going to put everybody out of a home. I'm not in favor of more taxes. We just approved the brand new police station. We're in tough economic times at this point. I just don't see how we can fund this at all at this time. We don't even know what's going to happen with question 1 in this coming election, whether or not people are going to vote yes or no. and what kind of effect that's going to have on property owners in this town. So please support me and vote no. We heard all this before, and we voted no for it last time. I can respect what they're trying to do here, but I just feel as though, isn't there something this town can do without the Community Preservation Act? I mean, eminent domain, making sure that we, the Board of Selectmen, make sure that the land gets used a certain way without going through a Community Preservation Act. I'm just not in favor of more taxes, and this is a tax that's going to burden many people. Again, with the economy, no one knows what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen with question 1. And God knows we don't want 2.5 overrides. Thank you.
Thank you, Nate, again. Alice Walker is next. Alice, do you want to use the other mic? Whatever's more comfortable for you. She's coming.
I encourage putting the choice of taking part in the Community Preservation Act on the ballot in May for the following reasons. There are people who will be voting in May who would not be able to attend the town meeting and will have the opportunity to decide this important question. Personally, strictly speaking, on the money side, why would we want Oxford to be left out of funding on such an important issue? Thanks to Selectman Susan Gallant, a questionnaire conducted in 2006 had a response. 72% felt that it is important to preserve our resources, while 6% felt it is not important. We cannot ignore the opinion of our residents who took the time to respond. Asking and planning are okay, but acting is more rewarding for us today and for the future generations. By putting aside the 1.5% of our annual property tax bill, we will be able to finance and exercise control over open space protection, historic preservation, community housing, and recreation. The exemptions are the first $100,000 of residential property value, low-income individuals and families, and moderate-income seniors. Projects to be financed are decided at town meeting before funding can be awarded. Taking into account the present fiscal and dismal outlook at the state level, as well as the national and worldwide, I would not use the 60% figure of matching funds from the state being added to our funds from the local property holders. At the least, we will be able to take part in a strategy to benefit our town. Thank you for your patience and giving the decision makers in the future a way to preserve and provide opportunities.
Thank you. Selectman Cooley? And I see some hands in the back.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Daniel Coonan, 1 Michelle Lane, North Oxford. This issue has come up before. Unlike other issues that the town stood by and said, yes, let's send it to the people. The fire department, the schools, the recent police station that came forward from town meeting, it was given the opportunity for the entire general public to vote on the issue. I feel this is the most important issue, that we're not just one building, not one part, now it's the community as a whole. The entire community of Oxford can benefit through this. We're not up here, no one's up here, I know personally, asking you to approve a self-tax. That's the hardest thing to do. I look at it personally as an investment. How you choose to vote, hopefully come May, would be you choose a community in your pocketbook, what you can afford, if you can give a little bit extra to the investment for Oxford. This evening, however, I think it's more important to put it out there for the general public. Let the people come to the polls, come and vote on the issues that the town meeting recommends that the entire voting population will go for. Just a little bit of background again, we've heard a lot about the benefits of the CPA. Then up to 2007, Oxford has put in roughly $470,000 and has yet to get a penny back. You talk about the rich get richer, the regressiveness of this. Our friends out in Cambridge, I'm sure they don't even know where Oxford is. Here they contribute 1% to this, but yet, since the inception, have brought back $27 million. Part of that's our money. The system, the CPA system, is definitely flawed. As our rep candidates were out there soliciting votes, I wish they were here to listen to this because not one community around here has adopted that in terms of districts. Oxford, Webster, Dudley, Auburn, Southbridge, Charlton. However, our money is being sent somewhere else. So the system is flawed. But before we can talk about fixing the system, I think the system has to work in terms of town meeting to recommend this go forward. So please join me in voting in favor of this.
Thank you, Dan.
Hi, Deb Lamage, 74 Old Webster Road. I just want to ask everybody just to allow us to put it on the ballot. That's all we're asking, is just let us put it on the ballot and then vote for it in May. If you don't agree with us, then you can say no, but at least let us try to put it on the ballot. That's all we're asking. Thank you.
Explain why we did not recommend?
I don't see why not.
Okay.
I didn't give you a chance before.
We considered this. It is not that we don't think it's a valid, that we should preserve the historic sites at Oxford. But with the economic times right now, we did not accept any of the capital improvements. We had $200,000 and some odd worth of capital improvements that the town requested, from an ambulance to equipment the school needs. We cannot afford at this, we don't know where the economy is going. We did not feel this bill will increase your real estate tax. It is a surcharge, and it will be there for a minimum of 5 years. Our senior citizens who are on a fixed income and who have to pay oil bills this winter, to have an increase in their real estate taxes when they don't have an increase in their income is going to hurt. We're not saying vote it down totally. That was one issue why we decided to vote against it. The second issue is that, yes, the state has matching funds, but with the governor's cut in funds, we do not have any guarantee that those funds are going to be there to match. And if there are no funds, they don't match that year. And we are locked in for 5 years minimum with this surcharge. And also the software, what it's going to do to the town department, accounting department. The cost of the software runs between $3,500 and $5,000 that the town will have to spend to implement the bookkeeping for this. They may not have to add staff, but they have to add. So where is that money going to come from to pay for it? This is the reason why, in good conscience, the Finance Committee did not feel right now they could recommend this.
Hi, Amy Frick, 10 Tremont Street. She just hit half of my points because I believe that the Open Space Committee was or is on the list of things that is going to go with the budget cuts in the state. Also, if I read the thing right, it said that anybody that was low-income housing and senior citizens were not going to have to pay the state surcharge. Are they going to be able to vote to increase everybody else's taxes? Because I have to agree with Joe. It's hard for the rest of us. I'm a single mother. I have a hard time making ends meet as it is. To have everybody go in there and vote to have an increase in taxes and then they don't have to pay it is not fair to those of us who are going to vote no anyway.
Do we have anything else new point to vote to somebody right?
Carol Colena, 1 Matthews Circle. I'm also on the Open Space Committee, and I have a whole speech
but it doesn't say anything that Alice Shaw and Deborah Marsh and all those who have already appealed to you says. But I do want to point out, number one is a couple things. One, if we have the community preservation here in Oxford, we would actually be able to fund the handicap ramp at the community center because that building is old enough to be considered historical. So we would not have the money for that. And also, to the point about the software, I believe that there is grant money available for that. And I can't say with absolute certainty, but I did hear that. So that's it. Thank you.
I heard somebody say move the question. I didn't hear a second. No, I did. It's been moved and seconded to move the question, Article 23. We're voting now on whether or not to move the question, which is to cut off all debate. All those in favor of cutting off debate of Article 23, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. The motion to cut off debate passes. Now we're going to go to the actual motion on Article 23. All those in favor of Article 23, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. No. That one was close. I'm going to try it one more time, but I think we're going to go for a count. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. No, we're going to, just so that there's, it's kind of close, and just so that there's no problems, we're going to do the standing count real quick. So if we have the same count as up here, you've already been sworn in. And all those in favor of Article 23, please stand. If you're a counter that is left, please raise your hand. Is Kenny Germain still here? If you support Article 23, you should be standing. The counters are coming around.
What's that motion like?
Thank you very much. Would you please stand or raise your hand if you are opposed to Article 23?
All raised up.
Okay, everybody can be seated. While they're tallying, I would like to ask, how many people are here for the very first town meeting? Very first town meeting? How many are there total? All right. Al, I have 6 tickets left. The first 6 people that come up to you that are at their first town meeting. Okay, Brenda's buying everybody a ticket for the May town meeting. All right, I'm glad we called for a standing vote. Yes vote, 60. No vote, 62. Close. I want to thank everybody for coming this evening.
The moderator.
Wait, I want to declare the motion was defeated, 60 in the affirmative, 62 in the negative. Thank you, everybody, for
Mr.
coming.
Moderator, I'd like to make a motion that we dissolve.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Thank you. Have a safe trip. Don't forget to vote on November 4th. Thank you for being kind to the new moderator. I appreciate it.